My name is Ruby, and I'm 27 years old. I work both as a housewife and in an office with a good job. My husband, Paul, is the same age as me. He loves his mother a lot, maybe too much, and my mother-in-law, Eliza, enjoys picking on me, even though our marriage has had its ups and downs. We just celebrated our second anniversary. I feel proud that I've managed to put up with everything. Work has become my escape, and because of my hard work, I've been promoted again and again. Now, I have a high position, which is rare for a woman. Right now, I'm on a business trip across Europe for important meetings. During a very important meeting, my phone starts vibrating. It's on silent, but I see multiple calls coming in. Thinking it might be an emergency, I check my phone under the desk. The caller? My mother-in-law, Eliza. What? Why is she calling so much? I hope nothing bad has happened. Feeling uneasy, I step away to call her back, but before I can, she calls again. Hello, Ruby, where are you right now? As soon as I answer, she sounds annoyed. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have picked up. Hello, Eliza, is everything okay? Do you need something urgent? I ask politely. Why aren't you answering me? I asked where you are, Ruby. She sounds as bossy as ever. Since I don't want to argue in the middle of my meeting, I say. Sorry, Paul should have told you. I'm on a business trip and in a meeting. Can I call you back later? But she doesn't care. Yes, Paul told me, she snaps. But why are you leaving your husband alone? Come home right now. What? She's making another unreasonable demand, as always. I'm sorry, Eliza. This is an important trip, and I can't just. She cuts me off. You're just Paul's wife. Stop acting important. Today is a special day. Do you understand? A special day? What's she talking about? Confused, I ask, why is today important? She replies smugly, it's my 60th birthday. Wait, what? I thought her party was at the end of the month. Paul and I had already planned a nice dinner for her. Now I see what's happening. She's doing this on purpose. She always tries to make things difficult for me. I take a deep breath and say, like I told you, I'm on a business trip. I can't come home. She laughs. That's funny because Paul said he's taking the day off for me. All the relatives will be there. Only you, work. You're so cold. Don't you care about your husband's parents? I know she won't stop talking, and I can't stay on the phone forever. I'm sorry, but I won't be able to attend, I say firmly. For a moment, she's quiet, then she takes a deep breath and says. Fine, you're not part of this family anymore. Don't bother coming back. It's a divorce. Paul was too good for you anyway. She throws those cruel words at me all at once. I feel upset, but I don't want to waste more time arguing. Oh, okay, we'll talk when I get back. I have to go now, I reply. She explodes. What kind of attitude is that? I said don't come back. I'll talk to Paul myself. Then she hangs up. I sigh, exhausted, and go back to my meeting. After 2 long days and many meetings, I finally headed home. On the way back, I was so angry and frustrated with my mother-in-law that I barely even remembered the journey. I'm home, I called out as I opened the door. Welcome back, my husband, Paul, replied in a tired voice. I took off my heels and walked straight to the living room, leaving my suitcase by the door. There, I saw a pile of cardboard boxes. Paul was sweating as he taped them shut. Oh, what's with the boxes? I asked. Paul told me they were all my things. Apparently, Eliza had really thrown her 60th birthday party and used it to turn everyone against me. She told our relatives that I had disrespected her, ignored her, and acted arrogantly over the phone. She even announced that she was forcing Paul to divorce me and send me back to my parents' house because I was an unworthy wife. That sounded just like her. I looked at Paul. So, your mom told you to divorce me, and you just agreed? Paul hesitated. No, not exactly, but she told me to pack your stuff, and I didn't really have a choice. What was I supposed to do? He mumbled. I stared at him. Wait, so you didn't even try to stand up to her? You're okay with this divorce? He sighed and said his father, Alex, had told him. If Eliza gets upset, I'll have a hard time. You better do what she says. So that was it? He just went along with it? This family was unbelievable. A father controlled by his wife, a son too afraid to go against his mother. And no one was on my side. As I stood there, shocked and speechless, Paul said. My mom's word is final. But this is only temporary. The divorce isn't real. I'll come back for you once she calms down. I almost laughed. He actually believed that? He looked at me with pleading eyes. Why doesn't he ever stand up to his mom instead? How could a grown man be so scared of his own mother? Oh my gosh, he was hopeless. I started to feel embarrassed. What had I ever seen in him? Then suddenly, a thought hit me, maybe this was my way out. Even if I stayed, Eliza would never stop making my life miserable. She'd always find a way to push me out. Maybe this was my chance to leave for good. I had a stable job, I could take care of myself. And at that moment, everything became clear. Fine, then yes, let's get a divorce, I said. Then, I picked up my phone and called Eliza. She answered after 3 rings. As you wish, we are getting a divorce, I said calmly. She sounded thrilled. Yes, please go away. And just like that, I was free. Get out of Paul's house. You finally realized you're not good enough for him, huh? I feel so relieved. Don't worry, I'll find Paul a better wife this time, someone pretty, obedient, and respectful to her in-laws. Paul will have no trouble finding someone new. That's right, I'll take care of my son until then, so don't worry about him. Eliza poured out every insult she could think of, as if this was her last chance. I simply replied, well, don't misunderstand me, Mother, in a calm voice. Eliza, still feeling victorious, just laughed. Oh, still bitter, are you? Well, that's not my problem. Oh yes, Ruby, I picked up the divorce papers from the city office and gave them to Paul. Don't forget to sign them. Without even saying goodbye, she hung up. Paul, who had been listening to the whole conversation, actually looked relieved. Is he an idiot? I turned to him. By the way, honey, does your mother know you're a full-time house husband? Paul stiffened. How could I tell her that? My mother believes I'm an elite businessman working at a major company, he said firmly. Oh, right, now that I think about it, there were plenty of signs that he never told her the truth. At home, Paul always wore an old sweatshirt, but whenever he met Eliza, he dressed up in a suit. When she called during the day, he made sure to stay quiet so she'd think he was at work. At her birthday party, she proudly told everyone that Paul had taken time off work just to celebrate with her. She even bragged that, with his status, he'd quickly find a better wife than me. But once the divorce goes through, the truth will come out. Eliza thinks Paul is perfect, brilliant and successful. There's no way he'd ever tell her anything that would ruin that image. She has no clue that her so-called elite son actually quit his job a year ago. The truth? Paul isn't a high-ranking businessman anymore, he's completely unemployed. He quit after making a huge mistake at work, which led to a formal apology, a demotion, and a pay cut. I doubt he ever told his mother about that. Paul had always been pampered by Eliza. Because of that, he was fragile and couldn't handle failure. When he had to write a report about his mistakes, just the thought of going back to the office made him feel sick. That's when he decided to quit, and he's been a full-time house husband ever since. Paul couldn't even leave the house, let alone go to work. At first, he called in sick and used his paid leave, but after a while, he stopped calling in at all. His unapproved absences piled up until he was finally fired. Now, Paul has no plans to find another job. He was completely relying on my income. He still hasn't told Eliza the truth because he knows she'd be furious. Honestly, I'm a little disappointed that I won't get to see her reaction when she finds out. She might even be so shocked that she has a stroke. But that's not my problem anymore. Paul handed me the divorce papers. This is just to keep my mother calm, okay? He said. I wasted no time. I submitted the papers immediately. Then, I signed a lease for a new apartment and moved out as soon as possible. 1 month later, I got a call from Eliza. I had cut ties with her, so why was she calling me now? I answered, what do you want? Aren't you happy you got rid of me? She scoffed, well, you haven't changed, just listen. Then, she started talking about Paul. After our divorce, she had been visiting his apartment to clean up for him. But every time she went, Paul was just lying around in his room. He wasn't sick, but he also wasn't going to work. She wanted to know if I had any idea why. I held back a laugh. I see, I replied, acting indifferent. Of course, Paul was like that, he had no intention of ever working again. Then, as if she had forgotten she was the one who kicked me out, she said, Ruby, can you do something about it? I couldn't believe her audacity. Why should I? You wanted me out of your family and cut ties with me, now you want my help? She ignored my response and continued, did you say something to Paul before you left? Was she seriously trying to blame me for this? Did she not see that the real problem was her son, not me? I sighed. I was the one who got hurt in all this, you know? Eliza snorted. Oh, really? You only married Paul for his money, right? So what's so painful about getting divorced? Unbelievable. She actually thought I married Paul for a luxurious life? She needed to wake up. Huh? Are you joking? I shot back. I was the one who supported Paul the entire time. I was the one who provided for both of you. To tell you the truth, I couldn't afford to live extravagantly because of Paul. Honestly, I was fine with the divorce, but a thought crossed my mind: should I file for alimony? Eliza, however, was furious. "How dare you?" she shrieked, "making up something like that. Ruby, you just forgot to ask for alimony, didn't you? Paul has a higher income and a better position than you. Don't be so unreasonable. If you just want money, Eric can pay whatever you want. After all, Paul is a super elite, working for a major company." Her words were so delusional, I almost laughed. Paul clearly hadn't told her the truth yet. I considered staying silent, but this was too good of an opportunity to pass up. Time for a little payback. "Your proud son is a full-time house husband," I said, savoring every word. "He quit his job a long time ago." Silence. Then? "What? You're lying." Eliza's shrill voice nearly burst my eardrum. I held the phone away from my ear for a second, then said, "Why don't you check with the company? You'll know soon enough who's lying." For once, Eliza was speechless. A moment later, her voice dropped to a shaky whisper. "Well then, what if that's true? How are we going to live? I can't take care of my son with just my pension. And no one will marry my son if he's unemployed. What are we going to do?" I smirked. "Ah, there it is, the panic." I could hear her whispering frantically to someone beside her. Then, in a tone almost too desperate to believe, she said, "Hey, Ruby, will you please come home?" I nearly burst out laughing. Was she serious? "No," I said flatly, "we're already divorced. I wouldn't come back to your family if heaven and earth turned upside down." I heard a loud commotion on the other end. Then, another voice shouted, "I told you I would come get you back when things cooled down. Paul." I rolled my eyes. Eliza chimed in, Yes, you could remarry my son, you know?" I scoffed. "What are you talking about? No way, I wouldn't do it for the world, don't even joke about it." Eliza stammered, her voice uncharacteristically meek. I didn't think you'd actually divorce my son, you know?" So that was it. She never thought I'd really leave. But I did. And there was no going back. In response to Eliza's bitter excuse, I told her, "Well, I was just putting up with it. Besides, Paul packed up my stuff and kicked me out without even giving me a say." I lashed out at her, listing every single thing she had done to me. "You see, that was just a prank." "A prank?" I scoffed, incredulous. Eliza still tried to brush it off, so I pressed further. "A prank, huh? That makes it even worse." At that point, I was beyond fed up. There was no reasoning with her. I glanced at my watch, almost 1 o'clock. My lunch break had been completely wasted on this nonsense. Eliza, are you done now?" I asked, my voice flat. "What, Ruby, what did you say?" Her voice suddenly turned sweet. Did she think I'd soften just because she changed her tone? Not a chance. "I'm hanging up. I have another meeting in a few minutes and need to go over some documents." As I pulled the phone from my ear, Eliza shrieked. Wait, Ruby, hey, Ruby, say something." Her voice turned more frantic. Then I heard her snapping at Paul. "Paul, you didn't do it right, and now look what's happened." Of course. In the end, Eliza always blamed others when things didn't go her way. I was done listening. Without hesitation, I hit the end call button and blocked her number. After that, Paul contacted me. "I want to come back and get you," he pleaded. Persistent as ever. Since this was a good opportunity, I had my lawyer demand alimony. Apparently, Paul's family was weak against lawyers because they paid the full amount in a lump sum. It seems Alex and Eliza fronted the money, and they were furious. They hounded Paul daily to get a job and start earning again. Paul, of course, was fed up. Where did all that elite status go? Unable to pay his rent, Paul eventually moved back in with his parents. Now, he blames them for his divorce, just as they blame him for draining their retirement savings. Like parent, like child. They spend their days pointing fingers at each other, refusing to reflect on their own mistakes. I heard they're planning to apply for welfare soon. I can only hope the government won't indulge their selfishness the way I once did. As for me? The proposal I made during my business trip was a success, landing a major contract for my company. I was promoted again, with an even higher salary. Now, I'm living a rich, independent bachelorette life, free from in-laws, free from financial burdens, and, most importantly, free from a husband who was nothing more than his mother's puppet. If I ever decide to marry again, one thing is for sure. I'll be doing a thorough background check. No mama's boys, no crazy in-laws. Never again.